Hello, good morning. I'm Sheila Kumar Hay of Ecstatic Birth, and today I'm here live with my friend Michelle Alva. Michelle is incredible. I've known her for a few years. She has a background in physical therapy. She is a yoga practitioner. She's a tantra practitioner. She's an energy healer. She is really into tapping into your body and releasing the pain, the trauma, whatever it is that's holding you back and showing up as your most vibrant self. That is the work that Michelle does. And what's really special about her work is, she's not just working on the level of the body or the mind or energy. She actually integrates all of these and has created her own unique ALVA method. And I've invited her here today to talk about yoni healing, because I think this is a topic that we're not talking about enough when it comes up in relation to childbirth. And I believe it is an essential piece that we need to bring forward and start to heal for ourselves, in our bodies, as practitioners, as expectant moms, in order to bring forth that vision that childbirth can be pleasurable. And one of the things that I was sharing with Michelle is that, I've seen a ton of research about the role of the G-spot as it relates to numbing a woman during birth so that she can reduce her threshold of pain during childbirth. Mm-hmm. But what I haven't seen is talking about the role of the G-spot actually in opening up a woman to levels of ecstatic, orgasmic pleasure in birth, because it's really two sides of the same coin, whether it's to, reduce the pain or to open to pleasure. And the key to that is yoni healing. So welcome, Michelle. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Sheila. And I'm so happy that we're talking about this topic of yoni healing, because I know it's a part of the body that a lot of us feel uncomfortable even looking at, touching, discovering. And yet that is where life comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a big part of the healing, right? Just the fact that we could get a little squirmy about this, just, talking about our vaginas and our yonis and looking at it and touching it and feeling it. I've been doing this work for quite a while, and I can feel that squirminess that we're here on Facebook Live talking about it. So that's a part of the healing, right? That's necessary.
I didn't touch myself for pleasure until I was actually, the very first time was when I was pregnant. I was 42 weeks and 3 days. And I was trying to go into natural birth at 42 weeks and 3 days. One of the suggestions the doctor made was to masturbate, to touch myself, to have sex, and to stimulate my nipples. So I was very unnaturally trying to go into natural labor. And then when I was 37 years old, that was the first time I ever had an orgasm by myself from exploring my own, and that was after my divorce. So this is where I come from, and I just have to put that out there, because I hope that people can realize how common it is for us to have some type of disconnect or some awkward relationship with our vaginas. And even the word vagina, saying the word vagina, for a lot of people triggers people. So there's a lot of opportunity we have to heal our yoni and expand our yoni-verse. And the happier women are and healed in their vaginas, the happier men will be, because we'll have more orgasmic women on the planet, and the more healthy a natural process of pregnancy, birth, delivery, creation force will be more strong on the whole planet. So there's a lot of benefits for yoni healing. And I'm really grateful that you're asking me to come on to talk about that. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing your story, because that's very tender and very vulnerable. And I think, for women to know where you're coming from, and now you're this incredible, juicy, woman healer who's helping other women take this journey for themselves, it's really, really powerful. And I was wondering if you could speak to, for a few minutes, why do we even need yoni healing? We touched on it in terms of how it makes us a little squirmy, but what's the big picture here? What's the point?
Well, our yoni and every part of our body matters. Healing means to become whole. And if I feel disconnected from my vagina, if I had sexual trauma, if I was touched inappropriately, or let's just say that my mom tells me that sex is bad, or that I'm going to get an STD if I have too much sex, basically we create a judgment about our sexuality a lot of times at a young age that has to do with shame or guilt. And those emotions we actually hold in our body tissues, and they can get trapped. And when we hold, is anybody has ever felt they have to hold in what they want to say? Maybe they're angry, or maybe you're sad and you don't want to cry in front of everybody. So everybody has felt how we become tense at a young age that has to do with shame or guilt. And those emotions we actually hold in our body tissues, and they can get trapped. And when we hold, is anybody has ever felt they have to hold in what they want to say? Maybe they're angry, or maybe you're sad and you don't want to cry in front of everybody. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, I could hear the recording. I don't know why. But
Oh.
Did you hear that? No.
No, it sounded fine to me. So we just had something funky happen, right?
Yeah, it's all perfect.
Okay, all right. So I think I was listening to your recording.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it's all perfect, right? So
Right.
if I walk around with, let's just say that I was, I mean, I had sexual trauma when I was 14. There's 1 out of every 4 women that have had some type of traumatizing event happen to them related to their sexuality. So if I don't process that pain in my throat, holding it in, if I hold in my body's not designed to function optimally holding. So if I hold shame and guilt in my vagina and then I get pregnant, that part of my body that's tensed up, that can actually just be light and free, it's going to affect my pregnancy, my birth. It's going to affect my fertility. It's going to affect my libido. And it's going to affect also how I orgasm. And a lot of women don't orgasm. So if I have shame and guilt and I'm holding all this fear-based feeling in my body is not going to be orgasmic. My body's not going to be digesting in a good way food. I'm not going to have a stronger immune system. We're not designed to hold and depress our feelings. We're designed to feel and flow, and that's what we are. We're energy. We're constantly in motion. So a lot of us feel disconnected from ourselves if we're holding on. And on top of that, how many people have had sexual trauma and we're ashamed to even tell our parents, or we're embarrassed, or we don't want to get a stigma, or so that's why I talk about this, because people are not talking about it. And I held shame for 14 years of my life in my cervical area. And I thought sex was painful. And it was, a lot of it was emotionally, because I was ashamed that I didn't say no to this teenager when I was 14 years old. And I thought God didn't love me anymore because I lost my virginity at a young age. I thought you were supposed to be married and then have sex, because that's what I was programmed to believe you're supposed to do. But then what happens when you're raped? And then I have clients who their father raped them, they were molested, they got pregnant, they had an abortion. So there's a lot of women out there that have had abortions, and they never go through the healing process of the abortion. To have a DNC procedure happen to your cervical area, that's painful and traumatic. And on top of that, to lose a baby. So there's a lot of emotional shame, guilt, blame, resentment, and we just literally hold it like this in our vaginas. And then we wonder why we're not orgasming, or why when we orgasm, we cry, and we have this memory come up of the past. And then women wonder, why am I crying with my boyfriend? What's wrong with me? So for all those women out there that you cry when you're having an orgasm, be grateful that you're processing out the energy of whatever that beautiful tears are helping you to move. And that's where I encourage women to do the Tantra breathing, this and open up their jaws and open up here, because that helps us to open up down here.
There's so much that I want to comment on in the wealth of information.
Sorry.
Shared. So the first thing that I want to say is that there's a lot of science that does show that women who have been victims of sexual trauma or abuse in the past actually have a lot more difficulty giving birth vaginally. And that really supports what you're sharing. And and this idea that like we really hold stuff. We hold stuff in our bodies. We hold the memories. We hold the emotions of that. So I do think of birth as like the ultimate
Release.
form of sexual healing and release, because what happens in childbirth is you have all of this energy flowing through your body, and for most of us it's more energy than we've had flowing in our bodies our entire lives. And so if your pattern is to just kind of like run your energy a certain way, and as the energy expands, that can feel scary to your body, right? Because you have a pattern of holding, gripping, whatever it is that the way that you run your energy, it's going to get blown wide open, or you're going to resist to the extent that you're really going to disrupt your birthing process. Mm-hmm. So this is so important what you're talking about, Michelle, and you know, sexual energy is one of the ways that you can really clear these memories, this trauma ahead of birth. And sexual energy, learning to tap into the flow of sexual energy, learning to expand the amount of energy that your body can allow to flow through it, is actually one of the ways that I support women to prepare for childbirth, because that it's incredibly healing, it's incredibly powerful. And when you start to know, when your body starts to get comfortable with that expanded energy flow, you're healing and you're also allowing more and more levels of pleasure. And you know, I can attest to this personally too, because I had a fairly traumatic first birth, and in my second birth, which was incredible, it was such a reclamation of what my body is capable of, and I had a gorgeous natural birth. And I remember in the moments after, instead of feeling like, I did feel elated at first, but then all of a sudden I had this like intense rage come up, intense rage. And I remember feeling like I just had to anchor to the music that was playing in the room, just so I could let that rage flow through me. And when I was, you know, processing it later, for me, what that rage was about, it was my daughter coming through the vaginal canal and coming through and really pressing against my perineum, which had an episiotomy in that first birth, and really opening all of that trauma wide open. And after that first birth, I never processed any of it. It was, for me, it was like, okay, I'm fine, you know, I'll move on. And that was a big part of my healing journey in getting pregnant with my second daughter, and being able to birth her, was really becoming reconnected to those parts of my body. But I know that this is true because, similar to you, like I've had it personally. I felt it in my body that there was no place for that rage, given the experience that I just had. Like I had the most amazing, most glorious experience. And then here was this rage because it had finally been released from that area of my body.
You know, thank you so much for sharing that. That is, did you write a book about that?
I could write like 10 books about that journey.
Something that's coming up is love. The hormone of love is the hormone of release and the hormone of pleasure. So it makes perfect sense. And we need oxytocin, the love hormone, for birth. Yeah. So it makes perfect sense for us to practice being more aware of our vaginas and orgasm and emotional release, because all of them are in the same jewelry box. So the more you are able to process and release and flow and transmute resentment, anger, guilt, shame, blame, it's going to be immediately easier to orgasm, easier to squirt, easier to birth, easier to live orgasmically. They're all in the same beautiful area, and nature made it so that healing is leading to orgasmic experiences. So feeling is the first place to feel what is there. And I highly recommend all of us spend time feeling ourselves from the inside out, so we can breathe into our yonis, we can put our hand over our belly, over our womb, over our thighs, over our vaginas, and just hold literally space for that part of our body. And I mean, I can bring the vagina model out, but you could pretend. I think I should. Hold on a second.
All right, while she's doing that, because we've got this funky Zoom hookup and I don't want to get that echo going again, I'm just going to check on Facebook to see if there are any comments here.
A pregnant woman, a birth practitioner can literally create a meditation where you're putting your hand over your vagina, however that reaches. You know, here's a vagina model, and you're breathing awareness down into your womb space, and you can make time to ask yourself, what's there? How do I feel about my vagina? How do I feel about how I feel about my vagina? And what's my past? Have I had joyful experiences here? Have I had traumatic experiences? Has anyone ever, I feel, overstepped their boundaries and I didn't say anything, and then I felt guilty or ashamed or blame myself? So in here at the root, where the sacral area and the root chakra are, is where we get to feel safe or not, and it really affects us, and it's also our relationship to ourselves. So this part of our body is very important for us. If we're going to want to have a healthy pregnancy, if we're going to want this part of our body to be a happy part of our body, it behooves us to look at what we're holding in that closet and to empty out that closet so that we could really enjoy the pleasure that our body was designed to feel during pregnancy, during birth, and during new motherhood, you know, for just everything to flow more. And we are love. We are love. So when we do things that are healing us, when we do things that are feeling, when we flow and we just be the witness of whatever's there, we get to practice holding space for our babies, holding space for our friends, for our loved ones, our partner. So this concept of just being there with yourself and whatever's there, and then breathing into and flowing whatever comes up is a great practice for everything that we're talking about.
I love this. So this, because it's so simple, right? And that's the thing, is we tend to overcomplicate things, like, oh, I need to, you know, go on a healing retreat in some exotic location for 3 weeks to deal with my issues. But it actually really is that simple, right? So what you're recommending is that expectant moms, or really any woman, right? You know, cup the base of her yoni front and back, breathe and feel, and just receive whatever there is that wants to come up, and breathe.
And it's nice to do this in the tub, in the warm water. You could also put a wet hot towel with lavender. You know, you can make it even more yummy. You could hug a pillow and feel your hand with a pillow. So you have your hand and then you're hugging a pillow. It just feels more comfy. Or be with, depending on how many months you're pregnant. And really, forgiveness is so powerful. To forgive if you feel that someone has hurt you. To trust that there's something there that it's teaching you as a blessing. So I learned so much from what happened to me, and I believe that everything is happening for me today. And I refuse to be a victim of anything. And I've learned quantum physics, you know, from all the things that I've learned, that everything is coming to us as a blessing, as a gift. So if anybody wants to talk to me, you know, I offer these 30-minute free clarity calls, and they're very powerful. And just, if I work over the phone, next Thursday I'm going to be taking a hypnotist training. So I'm going to be doing hypnotherapy with healing body work. And so I'm a physical therapist that has learned that the mindset, our beliefs, affect our physiology. So I go first to my clients' beliefs. So let's reflect from this talk. How do I feel about my vagina? Do I feel I need yoni healing? Is there anything that I have shamed myself about? Am I angry at any past lover? Do I regret anything I've ever done sexually or that was done to me? And am I holding any pain in there? Do I have pain? Because some people have emotional pain that manifests as physical pain, and the doctors don't know what to do with this, because you can't look at it in an x-ray or an MRI. Yeah. And so traditional medicine, traditional physical therapy is not going to address the energetic, emotional pain. And that's why I've had to create the ALVA Method, which was inspired by spirit. You know, it's not me creating it. It's just really saying, how can we heal this in a way that works, where the person is actually their own inner medicine woman, shaman, healer for themselves. So women, you're all so wise. You know how to birth. You know how to orgasm. Trust me, it's natural for you. But if it's not feeling natural, it's just an opportunity to come back to your essence. And I pray that we can look at it as that, because women have orgasms. They've learned how to orgasm through this work, and surrendering to their orgasmic being that they already are. And that's basically what I've had to do, is surrender, let go of all the control that I wanted to control. And I think God wanted to laugh and say, oh my God, Michelle, if you want to work with people, you need to learn how to let go and surrender. And I'm grateful for all the challenges I've had that have strengthened me to be able to now serve in this way and learn about what really works.
You know, I think you said something like super pivotal, which is, if you want to help people in this work, you need to learn for yourself, right? And so this is actually the basis of the training that I do for birth practitioners, is really take them on the journey of like, how can you embody these pleasure principles in yourself, in your body, in your own life, so then you can support your women in the same. And this piece that you bring up about mindset also is, you know, well, what do you think about childbirth? What do you think is possible in childbirth? What is the dominant thing that you're seeing in birth, which, you know, for a lot of birth practitioners is the opposite of what they know is possible. So how is it that what you're seeing in birth is affecting your beliefs? And this is a disconnect, as I see a lot of beautiful, wonderful women go into birth work because they're so turned on by birth. They're so turned on by the potential to really support women in this vision that they can hold. And then they're seeing such a different reality every day, because, you know, we're still working this. There's a lot of healing that needs to happen, as we talked about, for women in their bodies, but also in the systems and how they support women in this rite of passage. So
and that's why we're here, to change that. That's why we're here.
Yeah, so that's
your training is so awesome and empowering for women.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want to ask you, Michelle, is
we are the change. I mean, I'm a physical therapist and I'm a Tantra practitioner, and sometimes people meet me at these networking meetings and they're like, what do you do? Tantra? Or they'll laugh at me. I've been laughed at a lot, and it's okay, because I have now compassion, because probably that person who's laughing at Tantra, orgasmic, anything, has never had an orgasm. Only 30% of women on the planet orgasm, supposedly, according to these statistics. So I have a lot of compassion, and I wish to be a part of that healing for women, because for me, that first time that I gave myself my own orgasm by myself, I cried because I couldn't believe how good it felt. And I was by myself. It wasn't about pleasing anyone. It wasn't about me giving anything to anyone. It was my own tinglingness in my body. And I cried because I thought to myself, I'm 37 years old. Why did I wait so long? This is awesome. You know, because I was programmed to think that orgasm equals husband. Orgasm equals your partner. So I thought having an orgasm by myself was dirty. It's not what you do. It had a judgment, and I judged my own sexuality, and I cried. So as I'm having this first orgasm at age 37 by myself, all these things came up. I mean, it's healing. Orgasm is so healing. And sometimes when I'm feeling that I want to flow more, that something is a little off or blocked, and sometimes it's around the full moon too, I literally will create a pleasure ritual for myself, and I will pleasure myself. And for me, I see my body as made by God, and I am sacred, and I see every woman as a goddess, every man as a god, and I see us, that we are all divine. We're not separate. We're so connected. So when I touch myself and I pleasure my vagina, my sacred yoni, I see it as a beautiful time for me to celebrate the force of creation that I am. I don't look at it as a pornography video. So I come into my own sexual grace, and that has taken me my whole life to realize myself that way. And so I don't even understand how we could shun away sharing about such a natural, divine part of us. That's how far off I've gone on the other side now. That it's perfectly natural and inspiring to share.
You're such a gift.
Yeah.
You really are. I mean, it comes across in your energy, it comes across in your smile, it comes across, you're vibrant, you're full of love. And, you know, I feel like I could ask you questions for hours and hours, but I'll ask you one last one, which is this, like, what would you recommend for a woman that feels like they're on the opposite end of the journey? Like they want to have all of that juiciness, vibrance, pleasure. They want to support, you know, their clients in that, whether that's in birth or in other ways, but they feel like, oh, it just feels like such a long journey. How do I even begin? What would you say to a woman like that?
For women that feel very disconnected, that the idea of orgasm or squirting is so out there, or feeling pleasure in their vagina, or making themselves orgasm is way out there, the first thing that I would recommend is for them to give themselves a hug and be grateful for where they are. I was there too. So trust that you are perfectly where you are. And there are a lot of resources on how to open up. And that's where I recommend going to my website, michellealva.com. I have an intro to yoni healing audio course that's super powerful, gotten great reviews, and schedule a 30-minute call with me. I'm here. Sheila's here. We're here. There's resources. You're not alone. And that's where, I mean, I can't recommend more than enough to simply start massaging yourself. Start to go there, to those places. That's the first place. It's like shaking your hand with a new friend. You shake hands. So shake hands with your vagina. Have a talk with your vagina. Pet her. Especially, I know a lot of you out there have cats and dogs. We pet them all the time, but how often are you petting your vagina in a way of really introducing a new relationship with her? And you'll be amazed at how easy it is to connect, because connection is natural for us. And if it feels unnatural, be grateful that you're there, and you're going to do it anyway, because I said so. Because that's the way back inside, is to go there and be with yourself. And I think that's what we struggle with the most. And that's why we want to go, go, go. I know for me, I was very distracted and would want to go, go, go. And I think just have a willingness. If you will it, it will happen. So believe that you can connect, and imagine, if you could imagine, what would it feel like if you were already connected? So you can invite those questions. Well, if I was connected, what would that feel like to be connected? If I could imagine what that would feel like to be connected, I highly recommend that question, because it's all just a mindset. So are you willing to let go of the identity that you're disconnected? Are you willing to let go of that old you? And then we can create in this work with Sheila and I, our work together, a new perception of connection. It's possible. I'm living proof of it's possible. And I feel younger than ever today. And every year that goes by, I just feel juicier and juicier and more alive.
Like I said, it definitely shows. Thank you, Michelle, so much for coming here, talking to me today, for sharing your wisdom. You're such a gift. And I just want to say to anyone watching, I will go ahead and put those links to those offers and services that Michelle talked about in this post, in the comments. And I also want to share, for birth practitioners who are interested in taking this conversation a step further, I will be hosting a free webinar in the beginning of April. I will put the link for that in the post as well. And the intention there is to really open up the conversation about how you can bring more pleasure into your work as you're supporting your clients, how you can share more pleasure tools with your clients to support them as they're preparing for birth, for the healing that we talked about today, and also to support their flow through childbirth. So that's coming up as well. I am so grateful, Michelle, to have had you here, for your courage, for being a stand in this way and having this conversation. And I'm so grateful to, you know, those of you that have watched here, whether it's live or later on, wishing everybody lots of love.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Mwah. Thank you, Sheila. Have a beautiful day. Bye.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.